episode 66 of the Relatable Runners podcast. Today's podcast is increasing endurance. We're going to be talking about some common questions that people have when they're starting out in some endurance training. But first, we're going to go over wrapping up our running streak. And, you know, we did leave our clothes on, but we did have a streak. And Whitney, of all of us, I would say, you know, really killed this one. This is kind of her wheelhouse.
It is.
And Nikki and I did pretty good too. I would say personally,
sure.
I am proud of myself because I ran more by myself than I ever have. It is not my forte. I am definitely motivated externally, but
you got it done.
I mean, I missed a couple of days, but for the most part,
that was my experience as well. I missed a few days, but it did feel really good to, you know, days that I normally would not have ran at all. Just be like, all right, I got to go get it done. And the only times that I didn't do it was when, like, logistically it didn't work out. Like, I physically, like, once I was in Las Vegas and it was 112 degrees outside and the gym was closed.
Right.
Like, I wasn't.
It wasn't.
We were like,
safe.
Please don't run because we don't want you to die. It's 117 outside, and for some reason the gym is only open at
like for 1 hour.
Random hours.
It was very weird. But that normally I'm an excuse finder, and I'm like, you know, shoot,
my left toe kind of hurts.
My left toe hurts. I might start my period sometime soon, so can't run today. You know, but I didn't do that in this, which I was proud of me. So I feel like that was definitely me building up some mental toughness and keeping my promise to myself.
Very good. I'm proud of us all. And this was just as kind of a recap. I know we've mentioned it several times, and then last week. On last week's episode, you guys really kind of dived into it a little bit more. But we did about 40 days. I think mine was 41 days. And it started where my sister and I were going to the beach, and she said, let's run every day until we go to the beach. It's 2 miles. And I was immediately like, kind of like, I don't want to do that for only 2 miles. Like, it takes me longer to get dressed and get ready.
Right.
But then also with that, you can always find time to do
20 minutes.
Yeah.
You can always fit that in.
Right. So it actually worked out really well, and I really liked it. I feel like it
Ooh, before we move on, while we're on Haley, your sister, we are currently eating one of her delicious charcuterie.
Nice try.
But she made one of those for us, and it is so good, and she actually just started a business on it.
Yeah, so her Instagram page is at Gouda as Gold, Gouda as Gold, and so I know a lot of our friends listening are in Murfreesboro, Nashville, Franklin, and she's kind of doing, you can order little boxes and stuff for events and things from her, so go check out her page. They are really delicious. And
it is really good.
It's us eating bagel chips and
cheese and meat and all the yummy stuff. But anyway, sorry, continue. So y'all did this challenge, you and Haley.
Well, it was her idea, and she, you know, does not run as regularly as we do.
Right.
And she's, I would say, a little more injury prone just because she tends to, she can go bust out a run. She can go bust out 5 or 6 miles, but then, you know, the next day her ankle hurts because she hasn't built up the
support. Maybe not like warming up and all that stuff too, and like
which is great that
randomly
she's
going to run 6 miles.
Can randomly do it, but it's also like kind of the back end.
Right.
So she did start it, and it was actually her idea. She got about a weekend, I think, and her ankle hurt, and so she took a day off, and she was doing more than what she normally would have consistently. But we even did it, you know, through our vacation. That's kind of how we ended it, and I think that helped me so much because I felt so good the whole time and just strong, and of course for all of us kind of gave us a little confidence boost again as we're getting ready to get into marathon training, that we can do it, you know, even when it's difficult, when it's hard.
We don't want to, which is always
we don't want to. There's a lot of
thing.
times where you just do not want to, and us being able to hold each other accountable and just kind of get out and get it done,
and making and like prioritizing time to do it, because if you don't set up intention to do it, it's not going to happen, and you have to plan that out ahead of time, or it's going to be a lot harder to get it in.
Correct. All right, it's 11 o'clock and pitch black outside, and
you're like, well,
right, yeah. And I kind of enjoyed it. A lot of times, Nikki and I, since we are down the street from each other now, we would, you know, just plan on doing it, and we would do it at sunset time, you know, just really quick, get outside when it's dark, and I wouldn't typically run, and we probably wouldn't go out just to do 2 miles, but it was kind of fun, like just kind of spontaneous.
Yeah,
and
I enjoyed it. We really enjoyed watching the corn grow, because it definitely went from like a baby seed to like taller than us by the time the streak was over. So that was cool. And it was also cool. Amber and I didn't know this until recently, but you had Betsey also did it in correlation with us, and I had no idea. But she also even gave you some little tidbits on it.
She did. So she would text, like we would text each other to confirm that we had done it that day. And she started doing it, I think, maybe a couple days after us. She did 40 days, and she would text me and check in as well. So we kind of wrapped up with her experience and her results. It was a really big deal for her. She said that it was the longest that she's ever consecutively run or worked out.
Wow, that's cool.
And she just recently got a treadmill, so she said that was
that's a game changer,
huge,
I'm sure.
Huge help in that. So we asked her a couple questions, and she sent in some feedback on her results. The first one was what she learned the most from doing a running streak and kind of what she gathered from this experience.
When Whitney asked me what I learned most from this, it's kind of hard to answer because I learned a lot, but I'd say the number one thing, and this sounds really cliche, and I mean, you know, you hear it everywhere, but that I could do it. I mean, not that I didn't think I could do it, but it just felt so good to get to the end of, I ended up doing 40 days, getting to the end of that and realizing that I could do it, and I felt awesome.
Next, we asked her about whether she was impacted more mentally or physically through this challenge.
So physical or mental benefits, I would say for sure mental. Obviously there were physical benefits that, you know, you can't get away from when you're running 2 miles every single day, but definitely mental. I feel much more confident and stronger. I recently went through a move and lots of change in my life, my husband and I, and just I couldn't run like I used to. I didn't have a treadmill. Where we live now is kind of out in the country. I don't feel real good about getting up in the morning and running backcountry roads early by myself, and so it's just been a lot of adjustment. So being able to hold myself accountable to being able to run 2 miles, most of which were on the treadmill that I recently got.
What we thought was the coolest is actually what she thought was the coolest too, and it kind of goes back to an old episode 59, that we titled Identity and Influence, about how just living your life inspires other people and influences other people. So check this out.
And the best part is that my husband, who has run some in the past but can never keep up with any sort of routine with that, saw how great I was feeling about midway in, maybe 15, 20 days in, and he was like, I want that. And so he challenged himself, and I'm just shocked because he's about maybe 17 or so days in, and he's been doing it every day. Even after a long day of work, he'll still go out and get his 2 miles in, and I can notice a difference in him, and I'm just shocked, and I'm just really happy that I did it, and I'm happy that he did it, and I'm thankful that Whitney said she was doing it. I think her sister Haley said she was doing it, and now I'm just, okay, what am I doing next? What kind of goal do I want to set for myself next?
You're influencing and that kind of thing, and you know, she started this challenge not with the intention of rubbing off on anyone else or having anyone else join her, but then she ended up doing it. So proud of her for sticking with it for 40 days, and her husband is now, I think she said, day 17 or so.
That is awesome.
So super cool. So glad we did that run streak. I think that was a fun little challenge for us to do, and also a great way for us to just kind of mentally prepare to get into marathon training, because it has been, I guess, a year.
Yeah, a full year now.
It has been.
So it's not something that you can just, you know, jump into. You have to have your mind right, you know. So I think this was a good way to kind of ease us in that direction. And
I know something that personally inspired me was I was looking back. So we just had our 4th of July run. I was looking back at our 4th of July pictures from last year. Our legs were looking right. I know we don't do this for the physical side effects, like we kind of do, but our legs were looking right. So I'm super excited.
I'm excited about that portion of marathon training.
We were looking at those pictures, and she was sending them, and I was like, how did our legs look so like chiseled. And
because we were running like 18 miles at that point.
This is a month before our marathon in the summer, so we were like killing it. And then I was also like, hey, I was riding my bike at that time for a vehicle, so there's no comparison to that, so we're not going to compare ourselves, but we are going to just
we're going to just remember how good our legs looked and continue on.
Correct.
And hope for that again.
Yes. So that definitely helped us increase our endurance and ease into marathon training. And Nikki and I were actually talking last night on our run. We kind of did a little spur-of-the-moment run just to plan for this podcast, and we just kind of were brainstorming and things. And Nikki came up with
idea. As you know, I like to drop the Bible in a little bit of every one of our podcasts. So we were talking about endurance and how to increase it with it, because most of the time we do these for ourselves because we need these reminders. So, of course, we're going into marathon training, so we need to know how to increase our endurance. And then I was Whitney was talking about it, and I was like, and I was objecting. I was like, well, what if you're telling me, and like if I was going to do a half marathon, you're telling me that I could do that in 12 weeks. Like, that's not possible. And then I kind of thought about it. And so in the Bible, when Paul, back in the day when Paul wrote the Bible, or, the 60% of the New Testament, he didn't have a texter. He wasn't texting people or emailing people.
She said, the way that she said it while we were running. So, back in the Bible, they didn't have texting. I was like, oh, they didn't? No, they didn't.
It came just a couple years after.
So, here's how it worked. I'm like, okay, please tell me more.
So, you'll notice in a lot of Paul's writings that he will say something, and then he'll, ask a question about it. Like, he'll, object to what he's saying.
Paul.
Yeah, and then he'll, answer it. Because he didn't have time to, back and forth correspond with, the Church of Corinthians or Corinth or whatever, So he had to, the questions that he thought they would object with, he had to answer them in his letters.
Right.
So that was the approach we decided to go with in this Lord, in this podcast. So,
we emailed about our questions, so that's why.
We did, yeah. Texting, email, Bible, it's all very confusing to me. But we know everyone objects. Oh, I can't do that. I can't run a marathon. Right. Or, if you never ran a half marathon, I cannot run a half marathon. So we are going to tell you how you, in fact, can do all of this.
Yes.
And you're never really supposed to ask a question unless you know the answer to it, right?
Correct.
In certain situations, not always. But it's good to ask questions knowing what feedback you're wanting to get back.
Yes, and also, you were right, Amber, because I only asked in math. I only asked the questions I knew the answers to in school.
You don't want to get stumped by the teacher,
I told the teacher what was up.
So, shall we get into our podcast?
Yes, back to our podcast.
So, I'm going to ask the first question because I just realized what one of my questions was and how it correlated with what Betsey just said, and I had not realized that they had talked to Betsey or gotten this information from her. So one of my first questions was going to be, is endurance training more about training your body or about training your mind?
Now, Amber, that is a great question. I'm glad you asked that.
I'm glad too.
I would say the answer is 50-50. Maybe even 60-40.
That's more what I would go with.
Mental training and then the actual physical training. Because as we all know, like we always say, your body can do much more than your mind will allow most of the time. Your mind is, going to be your central governor and going to shut things down when you get uncomfy.
Yep.
You got to keep pushing through it. So a lot of marathon training, and I do recall when I did my first marathon, and y'all did make fun of me when I was actually studying the Marathon Training Academy, different topics and stuff on mental strength, and I would read it at night.
Yes.
And y'all made fun of me, but
there were worksheets or something.
I had to do worksheets. I'm nerdy like that, and it did help me because, mental strength is probably the most important aspect of increasing your endurance and marathon training, because you have to be able to fight through those voices in your head telling you to stop.
And they will at some point tell you to stop.
Yeah, and it might be at mile 1.
Right. Sometimes you got to run through that.
So let's say you are at 0 miles, and I don't know, it is mental because this, I don't think anyone who hasn't ran before, even a half marathon, I don't even want to diminish what a great feat that is. How can they take this plan, a 12-week plan? I don't run right now, so you're telling me in 12 weeks I'm going to be able to run 13.1 miles? Like, maybe they need to work on their, because I know this would be my objection, like my mental strength. Just believe in myself, because you can. I know it because I've done it. But how do you object to that? How do you get that endurance to do from 0 to 13.1?
So I think the best way to increase your endurance is going to be to slow down. Don't y'all agree?
Yep.
I think if you can run, 1 mile, 2 miles, 3 miles really, really quick, you can probably run 4 miles, 5 miles, 6 miles at a slow, comfortable, conversational pace.
Yep.
I think that is the main thing, is just slowing down. It's the best way to increase your endurance and to, kind of ease into getting those miles up and building your base mileage. Because if you're going out with all you can give, I mean, we've all experienced that 5K that Amber and I did recently. Literally at mile 2.7, I was like, I have nothing left to give, because we went out so hard. Obviously, you're not going to be able to make it to 5 miles, 6 miles if you're giving it all you got from the gate. So.
Well, and you're not going to feel like you're about to vomit the whole time. You can't get to that point until like the last, minute or so, or you'll never be able to continue. And I feel like sometimes it's almost like a pride thing. Like you have to let go of, well, I know I can run a 8-minute mile or whatever. Well, that's not what you need to do right now, though. You need to slow down and just keep going. And sometimes it's hard to like turn that
to rein it
back.
Right. Yes. So slowing down to go further.
Correct.
Is basically what we were saying.
Yes.
So, Whitney, since we are working towards an endurance sport, you don't really need to work on like speed training or strength training or anything like that, right? You just need to go run.
Just run and run and run and run.
Run till you fall over, right?
Yeah, just run your body right into the ground.
I mean,
I would say that is false.
I do believe that is a fair assumption, though, that a lot of people have, that all you have to do is just go run.
I mean, I know I personally did that game plan for 10 to 15 years.
Yeah. Up to today. I'm going to stop today.
And today is a new day, and we're going to do some other stuff. No, but it's definitely important to, if you're following a training plan, it should include some speed work and some hill work if you're doing a hilly race, or
cross training
for sure. And that's just to be more well-rounded and work those different muscles. You don't want to just run and run and run and run and run, because eventually you're going to have some kind of muscle breakdown, or something's going to hurt because you're not building up those supporting muscles. So strength training, I think, is the game changer in this, because I know when I was really focused on that before my first marathon, it was just, I was able to run more efficiently because I wasn't having to work so hard. I had the muscles there.
Right, it's like your body just knew what it was supposed to do instinctively because you had trained it to do so.
Right, so I think it's a balance of your speed work, your cross training, and your strength training, and then obviously running is thrown in there as well. But I think people are always surprised when we, aside from this running streak, tell them that we don't run every day. We run maybe 4 times a week.
We purposely don't.
3 to 4 times a week, and focus on other stuff as well.
Now, a hidden thing I think a lot of runners, I mean us even, need to incorporate into their life is yoga. Or just stretching, or afterwards, because you get so stiff. So that is something, actually, when I haven't talked about this before, but when I did the hard 75.
Oh, have you done the hard 75?
Yeah, I did some yoga, and I really enjoyed that. So
I'm actually glad you brought that up, because I was thinking, okay, we're getting ready for marathon training. We've got the endurance mindset. I'm going to focus on strength training, but it's very easy to forget about stretching.
Right.
And that's so helpful. Remember that one time we were talking about David Goggins, how he was like almost bedridden just because his body was, he was just pounding the pavement and just putting his body through so much. And then he simply started stretching, for a significant amount of time,
right.
each day.
Some intense stretching, I'm sure.
But it basically like healed him.
And he's fine now. And like he swears by it.
Yeah, that's a good, I'm glad you brought that up. So yoga and stretching, definitely important as well.
All right, so I have one more question.
Okay.
So let's say I have ran 11 half marathons. I've done a ton of them. I would say I am a seasoned runner. But in my mind, marathons are for other people. I cannot do a marathon. That takes up too much time. That is too hard. Like, you can't even hold all those miles on your hand and your toes together. Like, that's a lot of miles. How do you tell someone to overcome that and to make them believe, one, as we talked about earlier, it's a mind thing, but also like your body is able to run 26.2 miles. Like, you have the infamous wall you hit and all these, scary things you hear about marathon. How do you overcome that and get past that and do your first marathon?
That's a great question, Nikki. I'm glad you asked that as well.
Thank you.
I would say if you are a seasoned runner and you know confidently that you can run a half marathon or whatever your distance is, and you can do that over and over and over, and you're not able to do more, it's either your mental training needs to be stepped up, or there's some kind of missing piece, whether it is fueling, your nutrition, your strength training, hydration, cross training. But one thing that you're definitely going to have to incorporate is fueling.
Yep.
So, we know Erin, who is kind of like a superhuman runner, can literally race a half marathon without fuel. I think she's the exception.
She is the exception.
Our bodies, since we've gotten used to fueling, we rely on that carb release while we're running. And if you're going to hit a new distance, you're going to have to replenish and give your body a little something more to run on, so you don't hit that wall.
Because it is a big ask of your body.
It is.
So
it's
in
not
turn,
just going
you
to
need
do
to give it something.
You need to give something in return. Stretching, fueling, things like that. And really, once you start running those longer distances, or hitting a mileage that you've never hit before, that's how you build confidence. And I think building endurance and increasing your distance is all about building confidence. Basically, once you hit, I ran 6 miles for the first time. Wow, I didn't think I could do that.
I remember, sorry, I have another story. I remember so I ran for years and had, all these kids, and I kind of stopped running.
All these kids.
I stopped running for a while, and I remember very distinctly, it was my first time having ran 6 miles. I don't know if that's because that was like 2 hands worth of miles.
That feels like a significant mileage.
Yeah, like in my mind, I was very proud of myself, and I had this Gatorade, and we went to a basketball game for one of my kids, and I distinctly remember being like, if any of these dang kids touch my Gatorade I am going to chop their hands off. Just being super proud of myself. I'm I ran 6 miles.
You're I earned this Gatorade.
Yeah. It really made me, so such a silly thing, but it made me proud to drink my Gatorade.
But you remember
You still remember it,
Yeah.
And I feel like even at the place we are now, I will feel that confidence boost again once we do 14 miles and then 16 miles and 18 miles. I can't wait for that to be yes, I can do that. I can still do it, or I can do it again.
Because it has been a long time. I don't feel at this current moment that I can confidently run 16 miles.
No. I think I could do it, but I don't think I would be able to walk very well the next day and all of that.
It would not be enjoyable.
We're at an 8-mile long run currently. But we also know we've done it before, and so I think that, our muscle memory is going to come into play, and our mental confidence. Hey, this is hard, but you've done it before.
Right.
And we're going to gradually build up to that, and that's going to give us confidence, even us having run marathons, that we can do it again. And for those that haven't, you just have to keep going, and it helps you build your confidence. That's the biggest thing, I think.
Yes.
Absolutely. And it's funny, too, because, we all have ran multiple marathons before, but, it's still intimidating to me.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
So if you've never done it and you're worried about being intimidated, so are we.
Yeah.
But do it.
You just have to
do it.
You get more prepared, and we were talking about this last night, too. The person that you are today, or the runner that you are today, is not who's going to be running the marathon. It's the runner that you're going to be in 20 weeks that's going to be running that distance. It's not who you are today. You're going to grow so much through your training and build so much confidence and increase your endurance so much. You're literally going to be a different person.
And that's really exciting.
It's
when you say that, I think not only are my legs probably going to look a little bit more like they did last summer, but I'm going to feel good.
So
I'm going to...
invincible.
Yeah. So it's a kind of exciting. I can't wait to get started.
I'm excited. And one of my favorite quotes is very in line with this. You just have to keep going, because it doesn't get easier. You just get stronger.
I love that. That's good.
A good one. So just keep that in mind. You just have to keep going. It takes time.
But you can, if we can do it, and I know, people are if I can do it. No, really, I suck at a lot of things. If I can do this, they're looking at me like I'm silly.
Don't
but
talk about a friend like that.
But I feel like really, if we can do this, especially if Whitney can do this, anyone can do it. So this is us encouraging you to run a half marathon or a full marathon or any distance.
Right. Just get out there and try it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
And we promise you'll be so proud of yourself.
Long run recap. This week's long run was 8 miles back in our old stomping grounds, and we were all together. It was wonderful.
It was lovely.
It was very, very nice. And Aaron joined us as well, so it was kind of like the four musketeers, if you will.
The gang's all together.
Yeah.
It was great.
And ran those streets. It felt good.
It was extra blessing for Aaron and I because we got to wake up a full hour later than Whitney and Nikki.
It's true.
Thank you for that.
I think because we were in Murfreesboro. I was in Murfreesboro the previous week, and I was like driving. I had to go over there in that area on the roads that we used to run on all the time together, and I just like missed it so bad. I was like, okay, we have to get together. And it was July 5th, so we were off work. So we kind of did it was a Monday long run actually.
Yeah.
But Nikki and I came down to Murfreesboro to meet
super
at Amber's
early.
house. And
Yes.
Like 4. We woke up at 4.
5:37 was our meet time.
Yes. And I think
5:37.
y'all were actually a couple minutes early.
We were very, very
I was
odd,
impressed.
But it and we got going pretty quick. We didn't stand around and chat. Did we? No,
Not
I don't
really.
think so.
I think we took a picture or two and took off.
Yeah.
Oh, and you guys, this was our July 4th.
Yes.
So we wore our red, white, and blue attire.
I wore my
Oh.
cotton shirt per my usual on holidays.
I was
Yes.
having a hard time finding something, and then of course yesterday I have red shorts, navy shoes, like everything that I would have needed,
But, oh well.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
but it was so fun. We got to just kind of do our
Like an old loop that we used to always do.
And it was really nice to like know the mile, like just instinctively to know how far you had gone.
Yes.
Because we'd run those roads before, and we're like, okay, well if we go this way, that's gonna be a little long. This way's a little short. We might have to run past the house. Like just knowing the mileage of the roads was really nice. So
Yes.
it was easy for us to just talk and catch up and not have to like use our brain power to kind of calculate where we were, because Nikki and I are still doing that.
Yeah.
At the lake house, we know how to go 2 miles because we've done that significantly.
Right.
But,
You should know that like by your hand by now.
Right. So we were able to just talk, and
It was
we,
great.
We even saw Trail Hill and we ran up it.
Oh, we had to, yes.
Yeah, that was
For old
fun.
time's
It ran
sake.
down, and oh golly, and also the crossing section. We crossed the roads. We're not used to cars and lights anymore, so
was
that
different.
was fun. Yeah, we almost got hit a few times by
Nikki
a car.
decided to wait when there was no cars, and then when the cars were coming at us, that's when
you run.
she would dart across the street. So
Well,
we just followed
Good
her.
plan.
Yeah, it just makes sure you have a little bit of purpose in your running, and we won.
Yeah.
So like, did you die?
No.
So it was fine.
Did you die?
Did you die? But also, this is the longest run I think that we've done in a while.
Yes, for me personally, I had not ran this far in
6
probably
miles, I think is
a month, over a month. And it was like we spoke about, it built my confidence, because when I was done, I wasn't drained. Like I didn't want to go further, but like I could have gone further.
Yeah. It's not like the rest of your day is like ruined because you're like,
No.
oh my gosh, I did that run.
No,
Now I can't do
not at
anything
all.
else.
Oh my goodness, we're
Felt
forgetting
good.
the best part. So we always have to stop, find a porta potty somewhere along the way. And the porta potty we decided to use was on the biggest angle I've ever seen. And we won't say who used the bathroom in there, but they had to like hang on
To the old crap handle.
The old crap
To
handle.
be able to
Yes, they did.
crap.
Yes, they did.
It was quite
it was
funny.
scary for them.
It was.
That poor girl.
That poor girl.
Whoever she
that
was.
poor runner.
Whoever she
Anyways, that was very funny, and that needed to be mentioned. But it was 8 miles in our old stomping grounds, and it felt good. Like, I personally felt good. I think
Yes.
everyone felt good.
Yes.
And maybe just being together made it feel that much better.
I think so. It was like everybody had stuff to tell each other because we've been on trips and
Yeah.
just like new stuff to talk about. So I think it made the time go by fast.
It did. It went by really fast. We'll have to do that again.
Yes, very soon. Like
We
maybe,
Like
you know,
maybe Saturday?
Saturday,
Saturday.
Sunday,
6
one or the other.
There we go.
Sounds good.